Title: The Odyssey of Ancient Greece. Chapter 1: The Enigma of the Minoans. On the sun-drenched island of Crete, nestled amidst the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean, the ancient Minoan civilization thrived for centuries. In the heart of this flourishing society stood Knossos, a city boasting an impressive palace and bustling markets. It was here that a skilled craftsman named Daedalus found his calling. Daedalus was renowned for his intricate frescoes and remarkable pottery, which he sold to merchants from far and wide. As the demand for his work increased, he began to travel, exploring the vast trade networks that connected Crete to Egypt, the Levant, and the Cyclades. It was during these journeys that Daedalus became intimately acquainted with the enigmatic Minoan script, known as Linear A. Though the script remained undeciphered, Daedalus observed it being used in trade, diplomacy, and religious ceremonies. He marveled at the complexity of the symbols and speculated about the information they contained. As he continued to travel, he encountered people who were equally intrigued by this mysterious script, and they began exchanging ideas and theories. While Daedalus was fascinated by the written word, he was equally captivated by the advanced technologies and architectural marvels of the Minoans. He studied their complex water management systems and admired the palatial structures that towered over the landscape. These feats of engineering inspired Daedalus to expand his own skill set, eventually becoming a master architect. As he delved deeper into the secrets of Minoan society, Daedalus learned of the powerful priestesses who presided over religious ceremonies. He observed their intricate rituals and the reverence with which they were treated by the people. Daedalus became enchanted by the spiritual life of the Minoans, and his art began to reflect the themes of nature and the divine feminine. However, the idyllic world of the Minoans was not destined to last forever. Crete's position at the crossroads of the Mediterranean made it susceptible to natural disasters, such as earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Daedalus, now a prominent figure in Minoan society, witnessed the devastating effects of these catastrophes on the once thriving civilization. In addition to the wrath of nature, Crete faced threats from foreign invaders. Mycenaeans from mainland Greece began to exert their influence over the island, bringing with them a new culture and way of life. The Minoan world that Daedalus had known was changing rapidly, and he found himself torn between the familiar and the unknown. The story of Daedalus and the Minoans is a tale of a remarkable civilization that reached incredible heights, only to be struck down by the forces of nature and the ambitions of its neighbors. Despite its collapse, the legacy of the Minoans lived on through the stories, art, and culture of those who came after them. The enigma of Linear A, the advanced technologies, and the spirituality of ancient Crete continue to captivate and inspire us today, much like the mythical figure of Daedalus himself. Chapter 2: Warriors and Kings of Mycenae. In the land of the ancient Greeks, a powerful warrior culture was taking hold. The Mycenaeans, descendants of the heroic figure Perseus, built their civilization on the foundations of military might and shrewd diplomacy. In the heart of this world stood a young warrior named Theseus, eager to prove his worth and etch his name in the annals of history. Theseus was born in the city of Mycenae, a fortress-like citadel perched high on a hill, protected by cyclopean walls. His father was a respected nobleman, and from an early age, Theseus displayed a natural talent for combat. As he grew older, he dedicated himself to honing his skills, learning the arts of archery, horsemanship, and swordsmanship. In addition to his martial prowess, Theseus was fascinated by the Mycenaean script known as Linear B. This early form of Greek writing was used to record the inventory of the vast palaces, including details of the warriors, chariots, and weapons that made Mycenae a formidable force. As Theseus gained fluency in Linear B, he began to appreciate the importance of written records in maintaining the organization and efficiency of the Mycenaean state. Theseus' thirst for adventure led him to join a group of Mycenaean warriors who were setting sail for distant lands. He embarked on a series of daring exploits, engaging in battles with powerful adversaries such as the Trojans and the Hittites. In the course of his travels, Theseus encountered people from other cultures, including the Minoans of Crete, and he was struck by the vast differences in their customs and beliefs. As the Mycenaean civilization expanded its influence, Theseus found himself in the center of the political machinations that defined the era. He was sent as an envoy to negotiate alliances and broker trade agreements, which required not only his martial prowess but also his diplomatic skills. In his new role, Theseus began to understand the delicate balance of power that held the ancient world together. Theseus' experiences on the battlefield and in the halls of diplomacy shaped his vision for the future of the Mycenaean people. He dreamed of a unified Greece, where the disparate city-states would stand together against common enemies and share in each other's prosperity. Theseus believed that this could be achieved through a combination of military might and political alliances, and he dedicated his life to making this vision a reality. However, the world of the Mycenaeans was not destined to last. As the centuries passed, internal strife and external pressures began to take their toll on the civilization. Theseus, now an aged and battle-weary warrior, witnessed the slow decline of his people, as their once great palaces were abandoned and their cities fell into disarray. The story of Theseus and the Mycenaeans is a tale of heroism and ambition, of a civilization built on the strength of its warriors and the cunning of its kings. The echoes of their battles and the grandeur of their palaces can still be felt today, as we explore the ancient ruins and decipher the secrets of Linear B. The legacy of the Mycenaeans, and the dreams of figures like Theseus, continue to shape our understanding of the ancient world and the people who lived in it. Chapter 3. The Dark Age descends. The once great Mycenaean civilization lay in ruins, its palaces abandoned and its cities crumbling. As the Dark Age descended upon Greece, a family of farmers, led by their steadfast patriarch, Eumaeus, struggled to survive amidst the chaos and uncertainty of a world in decline. Eumaeus, a man of strong character and unwavering resilience, was determined to provide for his family despite the hardships they faced. The land they worked was no longer as fertile as it had been in the past, and the intricate trade networks that had once connected Greece to the wider world had all but disappeared. Still, Eumaeus refused to give in to despair. During these trying times, the art of writing was lost, and with it, much of the accumulated knowledge of the Mycenaeans. Eumaeus, who had learned the rudiments of Linear B from his father, mourned the loss of this vital skill. He knew that without the ability to record their history, the lessons of the past would be forgotten, and the wisdom of their ancestors would be lost to the sands of time. As the years passed, Eumaeus' family grew, and they adapted to the changing world around them. Their community, once a vibrant center of Mycenaean culture, was now a small village, where the residents banded together to protect themselves from the dangers of the new era. The people of the village looked to Eumaeus for guidance, and he did his best to lead them with wisdom and courage. With the collapse of the Mycenaean civilization, new groups of people began to migrate to Greece, bringing with them their own customs and beliefs. Among these newcomers were the Dorians, a warrior tribe from the north. Eumaeus and his family found themselves caught in the middle of the cultural clashes that ensued, as the old ways of the Mycenaeans clashed with the new ways of the Dorians. Despite the upheaval, Eumaeus remained hopeful for the future. He passed down his knowledge of farming and the old stories of his ancestors to his children, determined to preserve what he could of the world that had come before. He taught them the importance of community and cooperation, and instilled in them a sense of curiosity about the world beyond their village. As Eumaeus grew older, he began to see the first signs of a new dawn for Greece. The seeds he had sown in his children began to take root, and they carried on his legacy, sharing their knowledge with the next generation. Slowly, the darkness of the age began to recede, and the people of Greece started to rebuild their lives, paving the way for a new era of growth and prosperity. The story of Eumaeus and his family is a tale of survival and resilience in the face of adversity. It is a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human heart and the power of hope to guide us through even the darkest of times. As the sun set on the dark age of Greece, the lessons learned by Eumaeus and his descendants would serve as the foundation for the rebirth of a civilization, setting the stage for the dawning of the archaic age and the glory that was yet to come. Chapter 4. The Dawning of the Archaic Age. As Greece emerged from the shadows of the Dark Age, a young poet named Ariston found himself at the forefront of a cultural renaissance. Born in the city-state of Corinth, Ariston was captivated by the stories and songs passed down through the generations, remnants of the world that had come before. Ariston was a curious and adventurous soul, and he yearned to explore the rich tapestry of the Greek world, which was now divided into independent city-states known as polis. He set out on a journey that would take him from the bustling markets of Athens to the rugged shores of Sparta, and from the verdant valleys of Thessaly to the sun-soaked islands of the Aegean. As he traveled, Ariston discovered that the art of writing, once lost to the ages, had been reborn. The Greeks had adopted a new alphabet, derived from the Phoenician script, which they used to record their stories, laws, and the accounts of their daily lives. Ariston eagerly embraced this new tool, and he began to compose his own epic poems, inspired by the heroes and gods of ancient Greece. In addition to the written word, the Archaic Age saw a resurgence of monumental art and architecture. Ariston marveled at the towering Kouros statues that stood as silent sentinels in the sanctuaries of the gods and admired the elegant temples that graced the landscape. He was particularly struck by the Temple of Hera in Olympia, a magnificent structure that seemed to defy the very laws of nature with its graceful columns and intricate friezes. Ariston's journey brought him into contact with the diverse peoples of the Greek world, each with their own distinct customs and beliefs. He discovered the power of the polis, a unique form of government that allowed the citizens of each city-state to have a say in their own governance. This idea of self-rule and civic responsibility deeply resonated with Ariston, and he saw in it the potential for a more just and equitable society. As his fame grew, Ariston was invited to perform his epic poems at the courts of kings and the assemblies of the people. He recited his verses to the accompaniment of a lyre, captivating his audiences with tales of love, war, and the inexorable will of the gods. His words resonated with the people of Greece, and his name became synonymous with the spirit of the age. Throughout his travels, Ariston bore witness to the rising tensions between the various city-states, as each vied for dominance and control. He knew that the delicate balance of power that existed in the Greek world was fragile, and he feared that the rivalries and conflicts that had brought down the Mycenaean civilization would once again plunge Greece into darkness. The story of Ariston and the Archaic Age is one of hope and renewal, as a new generation of Greeks sought to rebuild their world from the ashes of the past. Ariston's epic poems and the grand temples and statues that graced the landscape served as a testament to the enduring spirit of the people, who dared to dream of a brighter future. As the sun rose on the archaic age, the seeds of democracy, art, and culture that Ariston and his contemporaries had sown would begin to take root, paving the way for the golden age of Greece that lay just over the horizon. Chapter 5. The Birth of Democracy. As the archaic age progressed, the city-state of Athens found itself on the cusp of a new era. The traditional rule by aristocracy was giving way to a burgeoning desire for a more inclusive form of governance. Amidst this period of transformation, a wise statesman named Cleisthenes emerged as a champion of the people and a driving force behind the birth of democracy. Cleisthenes was born into an influential aristocratic family, but he harbored a deep-seated belief in the importance of equal representation and the power of the people to govern themselves. As he grew older, he became increasingly disillusioned with the corrupt and self-serving nature of the ruling class, and he resolved to bring about change in Athens. Cleisthenes' opportunity came when a series of political upheavals left Athens in turmoil. Seizing the moment, he put forth a series of radical reforms aimed at dismantling the old aristocratic system and empowering the citizens of Athens. His most significant contribution was the creation of a new political organization known as the Deme, which was based on the geographic location of its members rather than their familial ties or social standing. This innovative system allowed citizens from all walks of life to participate in the political process, creating a more representative and responsive government. Cleisthenes also introduced the practice of ostracism, which allowed the people of Athens to exile corrupt or tyrannical leaders who threatened the stability of the city-state. As the democratic experiment in Athens began to take root, Cleisthenes found himself at the center of a vibrant and thriving community. The agora, or marketplace, bustled with activity as citizens engaged in lively debates and discussions, their voices no longer silenced by the whims of a ruling elite. Artists, philosophers, and playwrights flourished in this new environment, inspired by the sense of freedom and possibility that democracy had brought. Cleisthenes' reforms also had a profound impact on the military and foreign policy of Athens. The citizen soldiers who made up the backbone of the Athenian army now had a vested interest in the defense of their city-state, and they fought with renewed vigor and determination. As Athens rose to prominence in the Greek world, its democratic ideals began to spread, influencing other city-states and shaping the course of history. However, the birth of democracy in Athens was not without its challenges. The old aristocracy clung to power, unwilling to relinquish their privileges without a fight. Cleisthenes, along with the supporters of his reforms, faced opposition and intrigue at every turn, as they sought to defend the fragile democracy they had created. The story of Cleisthenes and the birth of democracy in Athens is a tale of courage, determination, and the indomitable spirit of the people. The legacy of this remarkable experiment in governance continues to resonate today, as the democratic ideals that took root in the city-state of Athens more than 2 millennia ago have spread across the globe, shaping the world in which we live. The triumphs and struggles of Cleisthenes and his fellow Athenians serve as a powerful reminder of the potential for change when ordinary people come together in pursuit of a more just and equitable society. Chapter 6. The Glory of Classical Athens. In the years following the establishment of democracy, Athens entered a period of unprecedented prosperity and cultural achievement. This golden era, known as the Classical Age, saw the city-state flourish under the guidance of its most famous leader, Pericles. As a statesman and visionary, Pericles worked tirelessly to bring Athens to the pinnacle of its power and prestige, and his impact on the city would be felt for generations to come. Pericles was born into a noble family with strong ties to the democratic movement. From an early age, He was exposed to the finest education and most enlightened thinkers of his time. His natural eloquence and intelligence soon garnered him widespread respect and admiration, propelling him to a position of prominence in Athenian politics. Under Pericles' leadership, Athens continued to refine and expand its democratic institutions. He championed the cause of the common citizen, introducing measures that allowed for greater participation in the political process and ensuring that even the poorest Athenians had a voice in their government. Pericles also recognized the importance of a strong and well-equipped military, and he worked to strengthen Athens' naval power, transforming the city-state into a dominant force in the Aegean. One of Pericles' most enduring legacies is the ambitious building program he initiated on the Acropolis, the sacred hill that towered above the city. He commissioned the construction of some of the most iconic structures in the ancient world, including the Parthenon, a temple dedicated to the goddess Athena, and the Erechtheion, a complex that housed several important religious shrines. These architectural masterpieces, adorned with exquisite sculptures and friezes, were not only a testament to the artistic and engineering prowess of the Athenians, but also a symbol of their devotion to the gods and their pride in their city. As Pericles himself once declared, "We shall be the wonder of the world, for we have made Athens the school of Hellas." The cultural achievements of classical Athens extended far beyond the realm of architecture. The city became a magnet for the most brilliant minds of the era, drawing philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, playwrights like Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides, and historians like Herodotus and Thucydides. The works of these great thinkers and artists laid the groundwork for much of Western philosophy, literature, and historiography, and their influence continues to be felt to this day. However, the glory of classical Athens was not without its darker side. The city's wealth and power were built, in part, on the backs of slaves, who toiled in the silver mines and labored in the fields to support the Athenian way of life. Moreover, the rise of Athens sparked tensions with its rival city-states, most notably Sparta, leading to a series of conflicts that would ultimately contribute to the downfall of the classical age. The story of Pericles and classical Athens is one of triumph and tragedy, of a city that reached dazzling heights of artistic and intellectual achievement, yet struggled with the complexities of power and the burdens of its own success. The legacy of this extraordinary period endures, as the beauty of the Parthenon, the wisdom of Socrates, and the drama of Sophocles continue to captivate and inspire, reminding us of the potential for greatness that lies within the human spirit. Chapter 7: The Peloponnesian War and the Fall of Athens. The growing power and influence of Athens had not gone unnoticed by its rivals. As tensions between the city-states escalated, the stage was set for a brutal and protracted conflict that would come to define the latter half of the classical age, the Peloponnesian War. This devastating conflict, which pitted Athens and its allies against the mighty Sparta and the Peloponnesian League, would test the mettle of the Athenian people and ultimately lead to their downfall. As the war approached, a young Athenian general named Alcibiades rose to prominence. Dashing, charismatic, and fiercely intelligent, Alcibiades was a natural leader and a skilled tactician. However, his ambition and penchant for intrigue would prove to be both his greatest strength and his ultimate undoing. The Peloponnesian War began in earnest when hostilities erupted between Corinth, a member of the Peloponnesian League, and one of Athens' allies. As the conflict spread, both Athens and Sparta were drawn into the fray, each eager to assert its dominance and protect its interests. The first decade of the war, known as the Archaic War, saw both sides score significant victories and suffer crushing defeats, but neither was able to deliver a decisive blow. During this time, Alcibiades distinguished himself as a brilliant commander, leading his troops to several important victories. He became a favorite of the Athenian people, who saw in him the promise of a new generation of leadership. However, his meteoric rise to power was marred by scandal and controversy, as his enemies accused him of sacrilege and betrayal, casting a shadow over his reputation. As the war dragged on, the Athenians began to grow weary of the conflict and its mounting costs. Pericles had died early in the war, and his successors struggled to maintain the unity and resolve of the Athenian people. The city's once vaunted navy suffered a series of crippling defeats, and its resources were stretched to the breaking point. In an effort to turn the tide of the war, Alcibiades proposed a bold and daring plan, a massive invasion of Sicily, aimed at securing vital resources and striking a decisive blow against the Peloponnesian League. Despite the misgivings of many, the Athenians approved the plan, and Alcibiades set sail at the head of a massive fleet. The Sicilian expedition, as it came to be known, proved to be a disaster. The Athenians were ill-prepared for the challenges they faced, and the campaign quickly devolved into a quagmire. The Athenian fleet was destroyed, and the survivors were either killed or taken captive. Alcibiades, who had been recalled to Athens to face charges of treason, defected to the Spartan side, further tarnishing his legacy. The catastrophic failure of the Sicilian expedition marked the beginning of the end for Athens. Its resources depleted and its morale shattered, the city was unable to recover from the blow. Over the next decade, the Spartans gradually gained the upper hand, and in 404 BC, they forced the Athenians to surrender, bringing an end to the Peloponnesian War and the Golden Age of Athens. The story of the Peloponnesian War is a tale of ambition, hubris, and the tragic consequences of war. In the ashes of Athens' defeat, the once great city-state was humbled, and its dreams of empire were reduced to dust. The legacy of this devastating conflict serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of power and the steep price that must often be paid in the pursuit of glory. Chapter 8. The Rise of Macedonia and King Philip Roman II. In the aftermath of the Peloponnesian War, the Greek city-states were left weakened and vulnerable. The once proud Athens had been humbled, while Sparta struggled to maintain its dominance over a fractured and divided Greece. Amidst this chaos, a new power began to emerge in the north, laying the groundwork for an empire that would soon eclipse the glories of Athens and Sparta, the Kingdom of Macedonia. King Philip Roman II, a shrewd and ambitious ruler, seized the opportunity presented by the disarray of the southern city-states. Born into the Macedonian royal family, Philip was well acquainted with the art of warfare, having been a hostage in Thebes during his youth. He had witnessed firsthand the military prowess of the Theban general Epaminondas and was determined to forge his kingdom into a force to be reckoned with. Under Philip's leadership, Macedonia underwent a dramatic transformation. He reformed the Macedonian army, introducing innovative tactics and weaponry that would revolutionize the art of war. Among his most notable innovations was the introduction of the sarissa, a long, deadly spear that gave the Macedonian phalanx a decisive advantage in battle. As he consolidated his power, Philip embarked on a campaign of conquest, systematically bringing the neighboring regions under Macedonian control. His victories were not only a testament to his military genius but also his skill as a diplomat. He forged alliances with key city-states and used marriage and diplomacy to secure his position and expand his influence. As Philip's power grew, the city-states of southern Greece became increasingly alarmed by the rise of Macedonia. They formed a series of alliances and coalitions in a desperate attempt to resist Philip's encroachment, but their efforts were ultimately in vain. In 338 BCE, Philip's forces clashed with the combined armies of Athens and Thebes at the Battle of Chaeronea, securing a decisive victory that effectively ended the independence of the southern city-states. With Greece now under his dominion, Philip set his sights on an even greater prize, the conquest of the mighty Persian Empire. He began assembling a massive invasion force, drawing upon the resources and manpower of his newly subjugated territories. However, just as he was on the verge of launching his campaign, Philip was assassinated by one of his own bodyguards, leaving his empire and his dreams of conquest in the hands of his young son, Alexander. The story of King Philip Roman II and the rise of Macedonia is a tale of ambition, cunning, and military innovation. His relentless drive for power and his skill as a tactician and diplomat laid the groundwork for the creation of an empire that would stretch from Greece to the far reaches of the known world. In the shadow of his achievements, the glories of Athens and Sparta faded, as a new age dawned in the history of ancient Greece. Chapter 9: Alexander the Great and the Conquest of the Known World. The death of King Philip Roman II thrust his son, Alexander, onto the throne of Macedonia at the tender age of 20. Alexander, known to history as Alexander the Great, would go on to surpass his father's ambitions and etch his name in the annals of history as one of the most remarkable and influential figures of the ancient world. Alexander's upbringing had prepared him well for the challenges that lay ahead. Raised in the royal court, he received the finest education available, studying under the tutelage of the renowned philosopher Aristotle. He also demonstrated exceptional skill and courage on the battlefield, leading troops in battle alongside his father at a young age. With the Macedonian Empire now under his control, Alexander wasted no time in pursuing his father's dream of conquering the Persian Empire. In 334 BC, he crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor with an army of 40,000 soldiers, embarking on a campaign that would take him to the farthest reaches of the known world. Alexander's military genius was evident from the very beginning of his campaign. He won a series of stunning victories against the Persians, including the Battle of Issus in 333 BC, where he faced and defeated the Persian king Darius Roman III. His innovative tactics and the formidable prowess of his Macedonian phalanx allowed him to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds and forge a path deep into Persian territory. As he conquered city after city, Alexander sought to win the hearts and minds of his new subjects. He respected and adopted elements of the cultures he encountered, going so far as to marry a Persian princess, Roxana, and encourage his officers to do the same. He also founded numerous cities, many of which he named after himself, as a means of establishing his rule and leaving his mark on the lands he conquered. Alexander's campaign took him from the shores of the Mediterranean to the sands of Egypt, where he was hailed as the liberator and crowned pharaoh. From there, he pressed on into the heart of the Persian Empire, eventually capturing the capitals of Susan, Persepolis, and Babylon, and effectively bringing the once mighty empire to its knees. Undeterred by the vastness of his conquests, Alexander continued eastward, determined to explore and conquer the lands that lay beyond. His forces marched through the inhospitable deserts of Central Asia and crossed the Hindu Kush Mountains, reaching the doorstep of the Indian subcontinent. However, the grueling campaign had taken its toll on Alexander's army, and his men, weary from years of war and thousands of miles from home, finally refused to go any further. Reluctantly, Alexander agreed to turn back, beginning the long journey to Babylon, where he would die in 323 BC at the age of 32. The story of Alexander the Great is one of unparalleled ambition, audacity, and achievement. In just over a decade, he carved out an empire that stretched from Greece to the borders of India, reshaping the world in his image and leaving an indelible mark on the course of history. His legacy endures as a testament to the power of vision and the unyielding spirit of the human soul, forever immortalized in the annals of the ancient world. Chapter 10: The Wars of the Dayadachi and the Fragmentation of Alexander's Empire. Following Alexander the Great's untimely death in Babylon, his vast empire was left without a clear heir or successor. In the absence of a designated ruler, a power struggle ensued among Alexander's most trusted generals, each vying for control of the empire they had helped to forge. These conflicts, known as the Wars of the Dayadachi, would ultimately lead to the fragmentation of Alexander's empire and shape the political landscape of the Hellenistic world for generations to come. The Dayadachi, or successors, were a diverse group of ambitious and capable leaders, each with their own motivations, allegiances, and visions for the future of the empire. Among the most prominent were Perdiccas, who had been appointed regent of the empire following Alexander's death, Ptolemy, the governor of Egypt, Seleucus, who would later seize control of the eastern provinces, and Antigonus, a seasoned general with aspirations of creating his own dynasty. The initial years following Alexander's death were marked by a series of alliances, betrayals, and shifting loyalties among the Dayadachi. Perdiccas, as regent, sought to maintain control over the empire and enforce his authority over the other generals, but his efforts were met with resistance and rebellion. In the early stages of the wars, Ptolemy seized the opportunity to consolidate his power in Egypt, effectively establishing an independent kingdom that would become known as the Ptolemaic dynasty. He defied Perdiccas' authority and captured the body of Alexander the Great, bringing it to Egypt as a symbol of his legitimacy and a means of securing the loyalty of the Egyptian people. As the conflicts intensified, alliances were formed and broken with alarming regularity. Seleucus, initially a supporter of Perdiccas, switched sides and joined forces with Ptolemy and Antigonus against their former ally. Perdiccas was eventually assassinated by his own officers, and the empire was divided among the remaining Dayadachi at the partition of Triparadisus in 320 BCE. The wars raged on for decades, as the Dayadachi continued to battle for supremacy and territory. The once unified empire was gradually divided into a patchwork of Hellenistic kingdoms, each ruled by one of Alexander's former generals or their descendants. Among the most significant of these were the Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt, the Seleucid Empire in the east, and the Antigonid dynasty in Macedonia. The fragmentation of Alexander's empire and the establishment of these Hellenistic kingdoms had far-reaching consequences for the ancient world. Greek culture, art, and learning spread throughout the territories once conquered by Alexander, as the ruling dynasties sought to emulate and perpetuate the glories of the past. The blending of Greek and local customs gave rise to new and unique cultural expressions, which would define the Hellenistic era. The story of the Wars of the Dayadachi is a tale of ambition, betrayal, and the inexorable march of history. In the ashes of Alexander's empire, a new world order emerged, as the dreams of a unified empire gave way to the realities of human ambition and the ebb and flow of power. The legacy of the Dayadachi and the Hellenistic kingdoms they founded would shape the course of history, leaving an indelible mark on the civilizations that followed in their wake. Chapter 11: The Hellenistic Age and the Spread of Greek Culture. With Alexander's empire fractured and divided among his former generals, the Hellenistic Age began in earnest. This period, which lasted from the death of Alexander in 323 BCE until the Roman conquest of Egypt in 30 BCE, was characterized by the spread of Greek culture, art, and ideas throughout the territories once conquered by Alexander. While the political landscape of the ancient world was in constant flux during this time, the Hellenistic kingdoms left a lasting cultural and intellectual legacy that would continue to shape history for centuries to come. One of the most enduring aspects of the Hellenistic age was the diffusion of Greek culture, known as Hellenization. This process was facilitated by the establishment of Greek-speaking cities and settlements throughout the Hellenistic kingdoms, which served as centers of learning, trade, and administration. Among the most famous of these cities was Alexandria, founded by Alexander himself in Egypt and later ruled by the Ptolemaic dynasty. Alexandria quickly became a hub of intellectual and cultural activity, attracting scholars, artists, and scientists from across the known world. The city was home to the Great Library of Alexandria, a vast repository of knowledge that aimed to collect and preserve the wisdom of the ancient world. It housed thousands of scrolls and texts, making it the largest and most comprehensive library of its time. The Library of Alexandria would become a symbol of the intellectual aspirations of the Hellenistic age, and its eventual destruction would mark the end of an era. The blending of Greek and local cultures during the Hellenistic age led to the development of new artistic and architectural styles, as well as the creation of new forms of literature, philosophy, and science. Hellenistic art often depicted everyday life, ordinary people, and the human form with a newfound realism and attention to detail. The Hellenistic style of sculpture, for example, was characterized by its naturalism, dynamism, and emotional expressiveness, which set it apart from the more idealized and restrained forms of classical Greek art. In addition to the visual arts, the Hellenistic period was also a time of great intellectual and scientific achievement. The philosopher Epicurus founded his school of thought, advocating for the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain as the highest good in life. The Stoic philosopher Zeno of Citium also emerged during this time, emphasizing the importance of reason, virtue, and self-control in the face of adversity. In the realm of science, the Hellenistic period saw significant advancements in mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. The mathematician Euclid compiled his groundbreaking work, The Elements, which systematized and organized the knowledge of geometry up to that time. The astronomer Aristarchus of Samos proposed a heliocentric model of the universe, placing the sun at the center rather than the earth, while the physician and anatomist Herophilus made significant contributions to our understanding of the human body. Despite the constant political turmoil and warfare that characterized the Hellenistic age, the period was one of remarkable cultural and intellectual achievement. The widespread diffusion of Greek culture and ideas, facilitated by the Hellenistic kingdoms, would have a lasting impact on the civilizations that followed, laying the foundations for the artistic, philosophical, and scientific achievements of the Western world. The legacy of the Hellenistic age is a testament to the enduring power of human creativity and the indomitable spirit of inquiry that drives us to explore and understand the world around us. Chapter 12. The Fall of the Hellenistic Kingdoms and the Rise of Rome. As the Hellenistic age progressed, the once mighty Hellenistic kingdoms began to decline, weakened by infighting, dynastic struggles, and external threats. The most significant of these threats came from the West, in the form of the rapidly expanding Roman Republic. Rome's rise to power would ultimately lead to the conquest and absorption of the Hellenistic kingdoms, bringing an end to the era and ushering in a new age of Roman dominance in the Mediterranean world. Rome's expansion began in earnest during the First Punic War, 264–241 BC, against Carthage, a powerful and wealthy city-state in North Africa. The conflict, which was sparked by a dispute over control of Sicily, mark the beginning of Rome's ascent to power and its emergence as a major player in the Mediterranean world. Rome's victory in the war granted them control over Sicily and marked the beginning of a series of conflicts between Rome and Carthage, known collectively as the Punic Wars. As Rome continued to grow in power and influence, it increasingly came into conflict with the Hellenistic kingdoms. The first significant encounter between Rome and a Hellenistic power occurred during the Second Macedonian War, 200–197 BCE, when Rome intervened in a conflict between the Antigonid king, Philip V of Macedon, and the Aetolian League, an alliance of Greek city-states. Rome's victory in the war demonstrated its military prowess and marked the beginning of its encroachment on Hellenistic territory. The Third Macedonian War, 171–168 BCE, brought Rome into direct conflict with the Antigonid dynasty once more, this time against King Persis of Macedon. Rome's decisive victory in the Battle of Pydna in 168 BCE led to the capture of Persis and the end of the Antigonid dynasty. Macedonia was subsequently divided into 4 client republics, effectively bringing the kingdom under Roman control. Following the subjugation of Macedonia, Rome turned its attention to the other Hellenistic kingdoms. The Seleucid Empire, under the rule of King Antiochus Roman III, attempted to expand its territory into Greece, but was repelled by the Roman forces in the Roman-Seleucid War, 192–188 BCE. The war ended with the Treaty of Apamium, which severely restricted the Seleucid Empire's power and influence, leaving it vulnerable to internal strife and external threats. Rome's final conquest in the Hellenistic world came with the defeat of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt. The Roman Republic intervened in a dynastic struggle between the siblings Cleopatra Roman VII and Ptolemy Roman XIII, eventually siding with Cleopatra. With the support of Rome and her lover, the Roman general Mark Antony, Cleopatra consolidated her power, but the alliance was short-lived. The Roman civil war between Mark Antony and Octavian led to the defeat of Antony and Cleopatra's forces at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. With their defeat, Cleopatra and Antony committed suicide, and Egypt was annexed by Rome, marking the end of the Hellenistic Age. The fall of the Hellenistic kingdoms and the rise of Rome had far-reaching consequences for the ancient world. The Roman Empire would go on to absorb and integrate the cultures, art, and learning of the Hellenistic kingdoms, creating a unique and enduring fusion of Greek and Roman civilization. The conquests of the Hellenistic Age and the subsequent rise of Rome would have a lasting impact on the course of history, shaping the foundations of the Western world and the cultural legacy that would endure for millennia to come.